quickly, I want to go into quickly about this because there's two reasons for this. Because I'm told to say things about the Salesforce Commerce Cloud. I have to say this and the second reason is because until very recently, it was called demandware. So I'm doing it so that when I lapse into demandware, and if Anne-Marie says demandware, you'll know what we mean, okay? So it's sort of a natural progression. And I really am clicking now, I promise you. There we go. So very quickly, what is Salesforce? Enterprise Cloud Commerce Platform. Started off as demandware and e-commerce, and is now stretching out into everywhere, every part of the front office of a retailer. So POS, order management, all that sort of stuff, wrapped around with a personalization layer, which we call Einstein. As you can imagine, lots of lovely clients. Won't dwell on that too long. And there's a number of clouds. You can imagine there's a lot of clouds out there, I've noticed as well. There's an awful lot of clouds in here too. And the clouds there, Commerce Cloud is the most recently added cloud to the group. We've got Tom down there from the Marketing Cloud as well. And basically, we're trying to bring together a set of technologies that deal with the modern consumer and the way in which people are working and trying to make the most out of the opportunities that we have across all of those. So let me move on from there, he says. Oh, there we go. I've gone too far. So anyway, I was going to introduce with a bit of research. Salesforce, we did a bit of research a while ago with The Economist, and it talked to 300 retail executives from around the world and asked them what the state of the nation was. The good news is that they all pretty much agreed that retail has always been the same and remains to be the same because it's about product excellence and it's about seamless service and it's about the value for money. You know, the price proposition. So that's all great. They all agree on that side of it, which is really good. But what they also talked about was a number of dynamics that are shaping the way in which they're looking at their businesses and dealing with things on a day-to-day basis. And those dealing from left to right, you know, increased globalization, pretty obvious, the opportunity to go outside your borders, but also the threat that's coming from outside into your own domestic markets, and are you prepared for that threat? Security, no one particularly likes to talk about security. It's pretty dull. You know, I don't try to talk about it too much, but unfortunately it is a reality. And if anyone has seen a lot of the reports in papers about businesses like Target, there's an awful lot of challenges where they were hacked and it cost them, I think, $250 million to sort out. I've certainly been in a business as a consultant to a business that was hacked as well. And I won't say that was the only reason why it went down ultimately, probably a bit to do with the slide before with regard to product proposition and pricing and service. But certainly the hack distracted and made it very difficult for that business to continue to operate. I'll skip the third one, and then the fourth one, marketplace, is just a quick note to say that marketplaces clearly are, you know, big and are growing. Not just the Amazons, but obviously all across the globe there are different marketplaces in different areas. And I think that one telling stat is, I was looking at in the US, is that I think that Amazon has 18 point something or other % of the apparel market and is the biggest market by far and is absolutely eating the department stores, particularly over in the US with regards to apparel. They lost something like $600 million as a combined group in Q2 of this quarter, and that spend pretty much went to Amazon. So marketplaces where they are is where a lot of the action is. We may not like marketplaces in some senses, but you know, perhaps we need to think about constructive ways in which we can work with them to make sure that we take advantage of the opportunities there. I'm going to go quickly to the changing consumer behavior because I think that is important. It's about millennials. It's something that, you know, Anne-Marie and I are going to sort of talk about today, and I want to talk about more. You said don't press black, Jim, I think is what it was, wasn't it? I'm pressing green for sure. Right, quickly. We did a bit of research, 7,000 millennials from around the world. And we looked at how millennials are finding and qualifying products. And it turns out they like to shop anywhere. They're highly social. They want reviews. The concept of social affirmation is important to them. You know, what other people think about them and they value the opinions of people that they know. And they don't watch TV, which is an interesting one. So the brands that are spending, and they still are outspending on TV compared to other channels, means that potentially they're missing this market. This market is by no means the biggest, but of course, whether it's the consumer of today or tomorrow, it's important we understand them as the first digitally native segment of society. And in terms of how they engage, they are prepared to be loyal, but it has to come as there is a cost to the retailer. Let's put it that way. You know, they want service anyway, everywhere, right now, and they don't really care. You need to provide that, but obviously there is a cost to that, and it comes through on the P&L and all sort of operational difficulty. They love an experience, particularly the younger ones like to experience stuff. You know, they like going to stores, and they are easily distracted. I think we're all easily distracted. I can't see anyone on their phone right now, so it's good to know that no one's distracted in this room. Very pleased. And then in terms of the response, it's pretty obvious what the response may be. We've got to make it seamless. We've got to make it mobile. Mobile's where they're at. We know mobile. It's not new, but are we doing enough? Are we really catering to the demands of this younger customer from that perspective? And the pace of change is so rapid. Leading me on to a campaign that we are doing about future-ready retail. We're trying to harness, trying to understand and break down what this pace of change means. And we put it into 5 vectors. I love that word, vectors. I don't know anyone else is a fan of vectors. But we've got 5 vectors. And it's all about being agile, small a, big A, agility, so the sort of development iterative style, or being fast on your feet. With regard to performance, Google talks a lot about being in the moment, those micro moments when people are considering purchase. We better be sure to make sure that we perform at the right way, make sure we have fast sites, make sure that we respond quickly, all those sorts of things. Ubiquity, who's the first to jump in? What's the decision-making that goes behind when you jump in to take advantage of technology, and when is it best to stay out? How do you measure it? What's the return on investment? Is it best to measure that return on investment only on sales in the till at that point? Scale, clearly getting into different areas. We talked about globalization, I did, and being able to find the winning formula and then scale that abroad is important, but clearly it's very difficult. The steps are on the way. There are many steps you can take. What's the right thing to do? And then the diversity, clearly channels, there are all sorts of channels. Everyone talks about channels, omni-channel, and all that sort of stuff. But there are lots of channels, and it's very difficult. Is it right to optimize channels, or is it right to be adaptive to new channels coming up? Is it a bit of both? I don't know. The good news is, as I do have an expert who will tell us about that, before I go, because I'm legally obliged to, well, not legally, the legal team's not here, which is good news, but come and visit our stand. There's a prize to be won, a Sonos speakers, allegedly, I'm told. And with that, Anne-Marie is going to take us through what it's like to be at the coalface, what's really happening out there. So Anne-Marie, over to you.
Perfect. Thank you.